Hi, this is Gary Dranow from Park City, Utah, and the Gary Dranow Show, proudly broadcasting to you from Radio Evolve Rocks in Santa Barbara, California. Listen more and evolve.
Hey everyone, this is Gary Dranow from the Gary Dranow Show. Today we have Rob Grad, who is a multimedia artist, musician, and writer whose work blurs the lines between visual art, music, and poetry, creating immersive experiences that challenge perception, stir emotions, and inspire self-expression. And I can tell you from my time looking at his, or listening to his music and looking at his art, that he certainly does challenge perception. So, Rob, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Gary. Great to be here, man. Really excited today.
I am excited to have you. Rob, take us back to the beginning. What was your childhood like, and where did you grow up?
I grew up in Los Angeles, the San Fernando Valley, which is sort of like yeah, right. So we didn't even talk about that yet, but very close to where you grew up. So I basically, it was like a suburb of LA, in a place where apparently people like living now. At the time I was a kid.
On Reseda Boulevard.
I was right near there. Yes. Reseda Boulevard used to be when I really needed to get away. I had a rough upbringing, a lot of conflict in my house, was unhappy, parents divorced. I had this like spout with drugs and everything. So I was a suburban, troubled child. And Reseda Boulevard was a street not far from where I grew up, and it had a little hill that kind of went up at the end.
In the north end of the valley.
Exactly, and you can have a view of the valley a little bit, and I would go there to escape.
All right.
So that was kind of like, that's sort of what the upbringing was about. You know, I mean, I actually look back at pictures these days. My sister she just scanned in some slides that my dad had from his camera from my childhood. And it's interesting to look back, you know, because I felt like at the time I remember how I felt, which was generally unhappy most of the time. And then I see these pictures of me smiling, hanging out, you know, seemingly having a good time on the outside. And it's just the disconnect.
That's not your memory, huh?
No, it's not. So it's been kind of fascinating to look back at that. And I'm actually going to do an art series around that coming up soon. But so basically, though, to short end it, I got into music. Music was there was a band in the neighborhood of these guys that I started hanging out with, and they needed a bass player at the time. And so I was like, all right, you know, I'll play bass.
I can't tell you how many people I've had on the show that are bass players. And the one thing that has come out to me is that every band needs a bass player.
It's always there. It's always a gig.
Yeah. I mean, if you play bass, you've always got a gig.
Totally. And so I learned the bass and I started playing with them. And I never really loved the bass. I started writing songs on the guitar for that band later. That band event, we did our first show. I was 15 years old. We played at the Troubadour in Los Angeles.
Are you kidding?
No, I had to actually we had to stand in the alley behind the club until it was time to go on because we legally weren't allowed in the club.
Yeah, so you know, in 1970, I saw Danny Elfman and his brother with the Mystic Knights of Oingo Boingo. This was before Oingo Boingo.
Wow.
Yeah, so I went to the Troubadour, but you performed there. That's just insane.
At 15.
Yeah.
So that was sort of when we started doing our thing, and we ended up, when I was about 18, we changed.
What year was that when you played there?
1985 or 6, maybe. I'm going to say 1985. I graduated high school in 1986.
So you're a youngin'.
I'm 56 now. So yeah, depends on which side of that number you're on. I'm either young or old,
I'm
right?
71, man.
All right. So to you, I'm young.
Yeah. My wife is 2 years younger than you. So.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question.
Yeah,
with this unhappy childhood, and the conflicts and turmoil that went on in your house, did it cause your urge to create, whether it was music or drawing, writing?
1,000%. So it was the escape, but it was also the catharsis of it originally, right? Like I was just sort of it gave me a channel to get this stuff out that I was feeling, and I was too young to understand or able to sort of process that stuff. And
Hmm.
so music gave me the out. And I found that when we were playing live and everything, just like all this energy came through me, and I was like, I just really connected to it. I started writing because I didn't like the songs that we were playing, and it shifted the direction of the band. We wound up getting a new singer in, and that's what formed Kick Tracy.
Got it.
So these are guys
Yeah.
that like I grew up with, and I was, got into trouble when I was a teenager with. And we wound up on RCA, we got on MTV, we went on the road. It was really cool until it wasn't.
Uh, how long were you performing while you were under the RCA label?
We got signed in 89 and we broke up in 93, 4 years.
So from 15 or
I was
15 to 19 or
No, no, that was a little bit later. I was 20 when we got signed and 23, I
24?
think. 23 or 24 when we split up.
Okay. Um, and was that in the 90s?
Yes, we signed in 89, broke up in 93.
Okay, that's just amazing that you got a record deal.
Back in
Um,
that time, it was a serious accomplishment. The internet really hadn't happened. There was no internet yet, really. And
MTV was going though,
yeah, yeah.
and were you on MTV?
We had two videos that were on MTV for a brief bit. We got like I always say that we got like as far in the music business as you can get without becoming like a household name. Like we did well, but we didn't sell well enough for a lot of people to remember us. There's like this super small sort of niche of people that really were into the band that kind of remember it and stuff. The music, I'd say, holds up pretty well for a band that was like post 80s. Um, and we were one of the better live bands. I still get messages on Facebook today that people say Kick Tracy is the best live show they've ever seen. We were really good live. We got signed
And
without a demo. We were that good.
what were you playing? You were singing, right?
No, I was playing bass and writing songs in Kick Tracy, and that was one of the rubs for me, is that I felt like I was writing these songs and I didn't like someone else singing what I had to say.
Uh-huh.
And it was I didn't like having the mouthpiece, especially when the mouthpiece didn't really turn out to be the type of person that I felt should be saying these things that were mine. And so my next band, after Kick Tracy split up, I learned how to sing. I moved to the guitar and I started a band called Superfine.
So uh, delicate, badass. Would it? How would it feel? Reseda Boulevard. I really like that. These songs are pretty interesting because you've got spoken word and singing going on in some of them. And
Yeah.
then I believe on Superfine's Stoner Love, I think it is. It's a full
Yeah.
on rock song.
Yeah.
So
So
your genres are
yeah.
crazy.
Well, I mean, when you kind of dive in a little deeper, it actually makes a little more sense. But basically, yes. So Superfine was a band that I started in the 90s. It was my answer to Kick Tracy. It was fun. I wore pajamas on stage. We were really loud, like guitars squealing everywhere. Like it was my sort of answer to everything that Kick
Was
Tracy.
it was it like Frank Zappa?
I mean, well, Frank Zappa, musicianship wise, Frank Zappa is just like, if you want to call it, Frank Zappa meets like Nirvana. You know what I mean? Like as far as
Okay.
the sort of
So the
sloppiness and
grunge and Frank Zappa put together.
yeah, it was like this, it was kind of poppy. I tried to write melodies that people could remember and that were, palatable. And at the same, and there was kind of a quirky, fun thing to it. The song Already Met You that I wrote was like, but there was depth if you go under the surface. And that's sort of one of the connectors, I think, with what I'm doing now. Like even a song like Already Met You, which wound up being on the TV show Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
That's right. That's right. You
which
had a
is a
sync licensing deal. Amazing.
And we were actually the band in the club. We performed on one of the episodes, and it's a great story, actually.
Yeah, well, let's tell that story right now. How
Yeah.
did you get that deal done?
So Superfine got signed to an indie deal after Kick Tracy split up. We got signed again, but to a smaller label. We put out a vinyl 7-inch single, and it got picked up by college radio. We were starting to make some headway. We were starting to talk to some major labels and stuff. And at the time, I was living at I was renting a room in a music attorney's house, and she was working at a very big firm that was handling Metallica, Blink 182, like huge, huge bands, and she was their lawyer. And I was just renting a room in her house, but she was really nice and she was trying to do nice things for us. So I get a call from her one day. She says, "Hey, they're starting this new TV show called Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and one of the things they want to do in the show is have indie bands, not only their music in the show, but have like a bar where indie bands play live on the show." And at the time, that wasn't something that was happening. Like, it was a very forward-thinking thing that they
I
did.
can't imagine it's happening today.
Well, I don't know that it is anymore, but
I don't think so.
so the guy Joss Whedon that really kind of created that show. And so first I said to her, she goes, you want me to send them your music? Because I guess she had heard about it. And I said, yeah, sure, please send the music. I said, but did you see that movie? It sucked. It was horrible. And she said, yeah, the movie's terrible, but apparently the TV show is going to be great. So it hadn't been on the air yet. No one knew it was going to become this like global phenomenon, right?
Right.
So, and even when we were on the show, so I get the word back. Joss loves the band, loves the song Already Met You, which is a song I wrote about. I already met you. You're like my last girlfriend. You're like my last girlfriend, the ex, and the girlfriend I had before her. So it's like this person that keeps repeating the same pattern. Like,
Uh-huh.
I think you're beautiful. I'm totally attracted to you, and yet I've been down this road before, and I know it doesn't end well. And so,
Pavlov's dog in human
yeah,
form.
so I mean that's what the song is about. So that's why I'm saying there's like a little more of a psychological depth, even though it's a funny song. So he liked the song. They invited us to be on the show. We were on the 4th episode of the first season. So when they actually filmed that episode, the show wasn't on the air yet. And so no one knew it was going to be a hit. And so we were just, in the TV show, we got paid scale for the day. My song was on the show. And sure enough, it comes out and the thing's just like global phenomenon. That song is still my most popular streamed song of all time. The song.
Are you still getting royalties from it?
Yeah. I mean,
Fantastic.
not a lot, but but
Well,
yeah.
it doesn't matter anything.
I mean,
in the music
songs,
world today, anything is good.
yeah, I mean, I'm at like 200,000 plays or something on the song. Like it's notable.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Uh, were there any specific moments, teachers or influences in school or your community that really helped you shape your artistic identity early? Well, high school forward.
I got into music and later art because art's really a huge focus of mine these days. My lines are blending now. But I connected to music. I was really affected by Ozzy Osbourne's death. It just happened, right?
Yeah. Okay.
He was one of the first rock musicians that I really connected to back when his first 2 solo albums came out. I loved Black Sabbath before that, but when those first 2 solo albums came out, this was a guy who wasn't singing about partying. He wasn't singing about girls and like all the things that a lot of people were singing about at that time. He was singing about working his out publicly, right? For whatever you thought of him, you liked the music, whatever. Like, and he was a nutty guy. And Kick Tracy later got managed by Sharon Osbourne, so I have a whole Ozzy experience after that. But that's how I connected to music. So I connected to music not playing covers. I never played covers. We never learned covers. We were writing songs from the go. And so music to me was a channel as opposed to a genre or something. You know what I mean? Like it was a way of communicating, which is why I connected to art later also. It's like learning a different language, right? You're speaking a language.
Well, and you speak in a different language. You're probably one of the deepest guys I've ever interviewed. Just your thinking is unusual. All right, we're going to take a quick break for a couple minutes. We'll be right back with Rob Grad.
I wish this moment could last forever. Right now, right here, staring up at these jagged giants, dirt whispering in my ear. Maybe my flight will get canceled, or I'll call in sick. Anything to keep me here would do the trick. 42 hues of brown, they're so clean it burns me going down. I can almost taste a friendly fate, where I'd finally get to say life's going great. How would it feel to feel like this forever? How would it feel to have it all together? Wide awake, fully alive, like my time has finally arrived. How would it feel? Got nowhere to go, no one to be. Without the pressure, I'm free. Unbroken, untainted, unjaded. No obligations, no one to report to, no due dates or bills to pay, no awkward conversations or solutions to find to the imperfect puzzles of my everyday. The sand is like a sea, just sitting here by myself. I'm in good company. I'm floating out of the black. From the abyss I hear a voice that says...
And we're back with Rob Grad. And we are going to jump into... Rob's going to talk a little bit about the depth behind his art.
So a lot of the, we touched on it for a minute before, just as far as the depth and the level of thinking that I put into my music and my artwork is... I mentioned it quickly before, but so I went through this phase when I was younger and I got high. It was an escape. I did a lot of weed and got into cocaine at 14, 15 years old. I got held up at gunpoint once when I was 15, stole my little cocaine from me, whatever. So anyway, I wind up in a rehab. And years later, it turned out that I really wasn't an addict. I was a kid who just had unwieldy emotions, didn't know what to do with them. Some people just have this reaction to drugs, but at the time I really couldn't get off them. So my parents...
Rob, just so you know who you're talking to, I'm bipolar.
Okay. So
I experienced a lot of what you did, just coming from a little different place, but keep going.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, it's, so what happened though, is as I cleaned up, I wound up in a rehab facility and I started going to, 12-step meetings and all these things. And I grew up there. I was actually sober for 20 years at one point. And it's a whole other conversation to let you know why I'm not anymore. But, I'm happy to touch on it a little bit. But basically what happened is I learned how to sort of, I had to start asking existential questions at a very young age because I didn't want to live anymore, right? I had to find reasons not to kill myself at one point. So it was that bad for me internally. And so in doing that, it started me on this path of asking these types of questions, and I got interested in it. To me, this idea that the Buddhists have that we're all suffering and we're all going to meet the same fate and all these things about our existence and everything, this is what fascinates me. This is what's interesting to me.
Did you read Siddhartha?
Of course, yes. I've read God, so many. Yes.
Ayn Rand?
Which one?
Ayn Rand?
Yes.
Like Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. And I only brought that up because I suspected that was part of your journey.
100%. And also going to those, 12-step meetings and stuff, you have to share your deepest, darkest shit with people to connect with them in order to sort of get yourself out of that place. And so I learned how to sort of be vulnerable in public. And I think it's stayed with me. So asking these big questions of life, I search for those answers through my artwork and through my music. And that's where all that comes from.
Wow. what role did rebellion, if any, played in your youth, and did creativity feel like an escape or a form of resistance?
That is a really good question. This popped up to me recently. Uh, in the visual art world, there's a lot of storytelling about who you are as an artist and whatever to give people context for the artwork. And so I have to go through these things. This is an exercise that I kind of do a lot, looking back at where my story comes from. And I find that I guess um, I'm sorry, I just lost my train. Where was I going?
Oh, you were you. I lost my train.
Shit, you asked me a good question. I was just giving a context
Yeah,
to get back to the question.
rebellion,
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
yeah.
That was it. That was the word. I've never thought of myself as a rebellious person. And this is, it's one of these things that fascinates me is our self-perception, like the reality versus what we see. And I never really saw myself as a very rebellious person. I wasn't particularly into punk rock at the time, like all the sort of cliche sort of how I interpreted what rebellion was. And at the same time, now someone mentioned to me, like, God, you're like a rebel. And I was like, really? But if you look at my life choices, I kind of am, I guess, right? Like I never wanted as many real jobs as I worked, regular day jobs as I worked through the years on and off and everything. I always hated it, never wanted to do it. Um, I've made all these sort of alternative life choices to pursue what I feel is important in life, which is answering these types of questions through work. And I'm willing to take the ups and downs and the pitfalls with that. Um, I've always had my own style with what I do. Like you said, with the new music that I'm doing, these like acoustic, palatable poems, whatever they are, with singing and hooks and stuff. I mean, that came from a meditation technique that I do, that I was taught. So I worked with shamans and gurus and stuff over the years as part of this sort of existential journey, just, part of the whatever. And one of them taught me a meditation that was helping me just with my general life at the time. And I had this song that was just bugging the shit out of me. And I couldn't figure out the verse. I knew the chorus was really good. And so I decided to apply that meditation to the song in a particular way, and which is basically learning to dialogue with your subconscious. And so I did this thing where
Well, you got to shut the subconscious up first before you could get to the dialogue, right?
well, you got to shut the conscious off first. So there is a meditative technique to get the noise out of the way and then allow the answers to come up. Like a lot of the great geniuses in our time, Edison and Ben Franklin and Salvador Dali and all these people, they used to take naps while they were working because they were trying to get their conscious mind out of the way to get these other ideas to come forth. And that's what my thing does, just in a meditative way. Same idea. So I used it with the song, and I heard speaking in the verse, like in my head, I heard talking. And it never occurred to me to do that as opposed to trying to sing a melody. And so I put it down. I started writing words without the limitation
Without the framework of music.
without having to fit those words into this melody and have some sort of structure to it. Just talk, right? And it came out rhythmic. It came out, it's not a rap, but it did come out rhythmic and it made sense, right? And I listened to it, I was like, holy shit, I love this. And I've never heard anything like it. So that is sort of the impetus of how these new songs all started. Now I'm doing multimedia performances with these songs. I'm going to put out an album later this year with a bunch of them. I've released a few of them on Spotify. You can go search my name and find them on Spotify. They're going to slow drip out over the next handful of months. And then I'm going to do a book with a multimedia performance thing later this year. But that's where all that comes from.
We mentioned Danny Elfman already, but when he was Mystic Knights for the Oingo Boingo, they were street performers, really.
Yeah.
Where do you fall in the genre? I mean, you're making your own genre. There's nothing like you. I could tell you that. But if you had to compare yourself to anybody at any time who's performing artist, where would it be?
I've had trouble with that, to be honest, in trying to sort of, especially now in these days with the technology and trying to niche yourself down and who do you appeal to sort of thing. It has been a challenge. Like I really am in my own league right now. Um, but Bob Dylan fans tend to like what I'm doing. Um, what's his name? Stapleton.
Mm-hmm.
You
Chris
know,
Stapleton.
yes, thank you. These types of people tend to like what I'm doing, like this sort of straight, honest, tell it how it is. This isn't, questioning bigger things in life sort of things. Um, that tends to be where I think the sweet spot is sort of right now. But most of the people that listen, I have this group that I started, and I think there's like 1,200 people in there or something now, and it's a Facebook group and an email group, and you can reach out to Gary or me if you want to get in. It's free. It's just a private place that I'm sharing music and
Yeah,
doing.
I'll have Rob give me the information, and I'll put it in the description of the video, guys.
So, but I do ask those people in that group a lot, kind of like, what are you listening to? I'm trying to get a feel for like who's responding to what I'm doing. And it's really all over the place. Like, definitely a rock background, um, rock and folk kind of worlds coming together a bit. But everything from the Lou Reeds to the Bob Dylans to the Chris Stapletons, more modern reference. Uh, Searching for these sort of bigger topics in music, but still with a very emotional, visceral twinge to them.
Yeah, I would say, and fortunately, we're going to have your music playing during the breaks, so people are going to get their minds blown. I guarantee you. Was there a specific band, song, or artist that made you go, "This is what I want to do"? And I'll tell you really quick. My moment was driving up Ventura Boulevard with my mother in her Cadillac, and on the radio in 1968 comes on Cream's live version of Crossroads. And it hit me like a bolt of lightning. And I said, Mom, turn the car around and take me to Ernie Ball's guitar. You know where Ernie Ball's was, right?
Yeah.
So we walked in there in 1968, and I walked out with a 1967 Stratocaster, which I still have, and Champ amp, which long been sold. But it was that song, and then Jimi Hendrix came along. So what was it for you?
It's a great question. Isn't that interesting how we all have that? Like we
Yeah,
all have that. There's that moment.
that lightning bolt moment.
There were a couple. I'd say the first one that sort of was my gateway into music was probably the Ozzy Osbourne records. When Ozzy's Blizzard of Oz came out, and what's the future of mankind? I don't know. I got left behind. Like I was like, holy shit. But I would say later musically, Sonic Youth. I heard the Dirty album that was produced by what's his name that did Nirvana. Anyway, I'm forgetting everybody's names today, but anyway, Butch Vig. Thank you.
I'm Gary Dranow. You're Rob Grad.
Okay, all right, I'm following along. Butch Vig. So anyway, that album came out in '91, and I was in Kick Tracy. We were signed and on the road, and I had heard a little Sonic Youth before that, but when that album came out, I was just like, you can do that? Like the guitars were so creative and noisy, but they made sense, and like it was just brilliant. And I was like, it was the most freeing to hear that someone broke the chains, right? You know what I mean? In a way,
you've got me totally intrigued. I've never heard Sonic Youth, so I will go listen to it as soon as we're done.
Right on. I mean, and I would start with that album. I'd say it's their most.
What was the name of the album again?
It's Dirty. It came out in 1991. Okay. It's probably their most palatable album. Like they went out there, and there's some tough.
Oh, I know why I missed it. 1991 was my deep blues period. So, okay. So Albert King, Freddie King, B.B. King, Albert Collins. So keep going. You got me hooked.
Other planet from that for sure.
Yeah. That's why I missed it.
It was just really freeing to me, you know, and the stuff that they were talking about. And like, there's a song called Swimsuit Issue and Teresa's Sound World. Like I heard those songs, I was like, oh my God. And so that was the impetus actually what didn't turn into Superfine, which for me was like this most freeing, just go there. Right? Don't be afraid to go there. And with my new music now, I'm having a similar sort of renaissance with that of like, don't worry about the classic. I started feeling very constricted by the songwriting, you know, typical song construct. And so now I'm free of it. And it's great. You know, you still want to, you know, the trick is with any of this stuff, and I find it with my visual art as well as with music, you know, when you're communicating with somebody, right? Like you and I are talking right now. And I think a lot of artists fall into this trap. And it's, hey, I just do what I do. It's for me, you know, I want you to dig it, whatever. And that's totally fine. But then that's just about you. If you want to be successful and you want to have your work have impact with other people besides you, I do think that you need to be conscious of the fact that you're communicating. And I think it's a very important thing that does get lost sometimes. If I were just talking to you right now, and I was just saying whatever words I felt like saying because those are the words that meant the most to me, you would be looking at me like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? Right?
Oh, bleep, bleep.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know if I'm supposed to be doing that.
No F-bombs, but everything else is okay.
Okay, sorry about that. We're going to edit that out. But what the hell are you talking about? I can't just sit here and spout words. I am actually thinking to myself, I have a thought that I want to convey to you. And I'm trying to find the best words that I can to get that over to you. When we're in our music and when we're in our art, to me, it's very much the same thing. I have a feeling, I have an idea, and I'm not saying dumb down the work in fact, it's exactly what I'm not saying. You know, I'm saying that I have an idea in here or a feeling, or even if you're being obtuse or whatever, to find a way to communicate that forward in an artistic sense. And even if it leaves you with a question or it leaves you with a whatever, which is sometimes the most effective art, you know, of any form, any medium. But I think that I'm always trying to be conscious of that. What am I communicating here? And am I communicating that effectively? Because if you're not communicating, even if your whole point is to have somebody go like, whoa, man, I just never, you know, wow, you know, then you want to make sure you're consciously communicating that somehow to get them there and to help.
Okay, well, now I'm embarrassed about all my music on Spotify.
Oh, no. Listen, I think that a lot of this, especially artists like you who've been in this for a long time, I do think that we do a lot of this intuitively. You know what I'm saying? This isn't something, and I've listened to your music, and to me, your music does communicate. So I think you're just doing it intuitively. I'm just being more conscious about it, especially being that I'm like creating songs that are like over here somewhere, you know, and making sure that I'm coming back to a place where you can listen to it and go like, okay, I get what you're saying. You know, that's all that I'm, and I think that your music accomplishes that very effectively.
You're too kind, Rob.
No, I would find something else nice to say if I didn't mean it.
So Superfine had indie success and national exposure with a song with the Buffy Vampire thing. Yeah. How did that moment change your trajectory, or did it?
Oh, it totally changed my trajectory. Superfine was the most fun, freeing, wonderful experience for me. It's still one of my most creative periods of my entire life. I started wearing pajamas, which I've started to start wearing again now, you know, as a tribute to that. Not just the fact that Superfine just came back together after 20 years and we just did our first show and we're recording a song, but it's just a fun thing we're doing. But it was the first time I really took all the guardrails off and said, for better, for worse. I mean, Kick Tracy became such a painful experience for me at the end that I was so miserable there. And we had a record deal. I was on RCA Records. We were almost famous at that moment. And everyone around us, including the record company, was really excited about what our next record was going to be. And we couldn't get it made because we were just too much on each other. But there was a point, I was living in Venice Beach at the time, and there was a day that I went for a walk in the morning and I realized that I would rather have gone to a day job that day, like literally working like at my stepdad's book company in the warehouse, than go to my rehearsal with that band. That's how uncomfortable and how not fun that became at the end. So Superfine was my way of just going, you know what? I don't care if we suck. I just need to have fun with
I'm gonna express myself the way I express myself,
Yes.
like it or not.
Yes.
And with that, we're going to take another 2-minute break. We'll be back with the most interesting man on earth, Rob Grad.
Valley floor. It's lined with fast food, family dentists, and gas stations. The north end winds up a hill. It's where I used to hide when my bands broke up, my girlfriends left, or my house was too depressing to go home to. I'd stare at the basin lights in my beige Toyota, smoking cigarettes, plotting my escape. I'm told people actually want to live there now. When I was a kid, it wasn't somewhere to be, it was somewhere to leave. All I wanted was out. The idea of an unremarkable life was unbearable. I dreamed big. I wanted extraordinary, exemplary. I wanted a life that when I looked back, I'd shake my head in disbelief, blown away by my own accomplishments and adventures. And I thought I was on my way for a while. But for every nudge that pushed me forward, the voices would call me back. Forging through the omniscient sludge of all that is requires faith, hope, resolve, a potpourri of personal characteristics I lacked at the time. So I negotiated with nothingness, trying to convince myself I could be satisfied, with my sights set a little closer to earth. The problem is, settling for good enough is never good enough for the soul. It wants what it wants. It doesn't matter how much you think you can't do it. Thinking small is a waste. I dream big, I want it all. I want to grow 10 feet tall. I dream big every time, 'cause desire is divine.
We're back with Rob Grad, and I'm Gary Dranow. After 25-year break, what led to Superfine's reunion in 2025? What's the difference about the music you're creating now?
When I started Superfine, it was such a cathartic, wonderful freedom expression. But in the end, I don't think I wasn't used to being a front man. It was the first time I really ever fronted my own band. And, the bass player quit and everything. I just wasn't able to navigate the band stuff really well. And I just got frustrated. And so finally the thing just kind of went away. And that was sort of the journey into visual art kind of started there. But let's see, in December, a guy I know, a friend of mine, who used to be a promoter in Los Angeles in the 90s, who used to book Superfine all the time. He and I've kept in touch. He's a friend. He started to book shows again. And I went out to support him on a show that he was doing downtown LA one night, and just, I'm sitting there hanging out, having a drink and checking out the band. And I knew one of the people in one of the bands, and we were just having fun. And he looked over at me. He goes, I'm trying to get some of the old bands back together to kind of do some shows around LA. You think you want to do a Superfine show? I was like, and as soon as he said it, I was like, man, that sounds fun. And so I just looked at him. I was like, yeah, I would do it. He goes, all right. And that was sort of the end of it. And then about a month later, I get a message from him and he says, dude, I've got dates, we're playing at this. I've got Thursday nights at this, dive bar in LA, which I love this place. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So
are you playing to a good crowd, or is it hard to get people out?
Well, we've only done one show so far, so it's a little hard to tell.
Okay.
We had a fan fly in from Dallas, so there to see that show. So it's sort of, we'll see is the short answer, but there was definitely all ages there. It was really cool because there were people there that I ran a little Facebook ad to see if I could get some people out, just to kind of, because we have the Buffy connection and all that kind of stuff. And some people did come out from that. And they were like in their 30s and stuff, and they loved the band. So, and when I went back to listen to Superfine's music, I really feel that it holds up. Like if I heard that come out today, I'd be like, damn, someone's finally playing some good rock again, like sort of, at least that style, So I think a lot of bands these days, just rock music is not what it used to be. I don't care, the scene is different, people are different, the music has evolved someplace that I think is irrelevant to most of society. And so that's why it's become so niche. And not that Superfine is like this, it's not exactly mainstream music, but it does have hooks and it does have choruses you can sing to and relatable stuff in it. So I have no idea what the potential of it is, but I do have about 20 Superfine songs maybe that are in various stages of completion that are all, to me, really great, that I never recorded. I have like crappy demos.
Is the sound like Stoner Love?
Yeah.
Is that, yeah, okay. Are you rediscovering anything about yourself musically in the new phase with Superfine?
Yes. I think for me, the timing to get back was Superfine. I actually brought new people in to do it. The other guys just kind of weren't around. They moved away. They were doing other things and whatever. And it was kind of my project anyway. There were quite a few different members through the time of Superfine. So I kind of brought 3 of my friends in to do it with me, who they've all played together for a while. And I knew that there was a chance we'd only do one show. And so they all knew each other, played well together, super freaking talented, like just amazing dudes. And so the show was great, right? Because everybody was already so comfortable with each other, and I've known them for years. So the band had the feel of a band that's been together for a long time. And so we went in the studio. We recorded one song so far. I just did the vocal this week, so we're going to mix it and get it out in the next probably few weeks, month. And that song is called "I Want to Be Alive," and that was something that I wrote back in the day. So what I'm reconnecting with that part of me that this to me is a healing thing that's happening with Superfine rebooting. My experience in the music business was successful and heartbreaking at the same time. And I really put a lot of it behind me and didn't deal with some of the heartbreak, I think, for a lot of years. Like, it was just painful. And I was tried to just be proud of the things that I was successful at, and just kind of let the rest go. And it's fine. But I think having this come full circle, I'm finding that there was even talk of a Kick Tracy reunion at one point, which isn't going to happen, but it did reconfirm some of my feelings about why we split up. And so I was able to put closure on that. And I think the Superfine moment is coming back in my life in a time where that energy of just like, let it fly, man, just let it fly. Don't put the filter on. And I think it's a really good lesson for me to keep top of mind. Don't put the filter on. Just let it fly. Let the chips fall where they do. Try and create something that energetically, to me, just feels like, wow. And if I can do that, then I kind of feel like someone else is going to respond to it as well.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right.
Because that's what we respond to, right? We respond to the energy of a song. You don't respond to whether it's perfect. You don't, I mean, we've all heard mediocre musicians playing mediocre songs, that something about it clicks and we all respond to it, right? There's something about it that works. We've all experienced it. We all have favorite songs that are like that, and favorite bands that, and so the alchemy of making something that people respond to well and can have not just about being famous or successful, but like having a real impact, like those Ozzy Osbourne songs had on me, when I was a kid. And I think most musicians that I know that are playing original music have to some degree that feeling of like, I want to give back to that cycle, right? Music affected me to a deep, real degree. There was a healing, something happened there that made me feel not alone, made me feel better. And I want
saved your life. Oftentimes
that is 100% what people say. And so, and there's a natural inclination to want to give back to that, right? A reciprocating energy that we have you saved my life. I want to do something nice for you. If someone pulled you out from in front of a bus, right, you were going to get hit by a bus, you might want to take that person out to lunch or send them a little present, right? To me, this is a
Yeah,
very,
at
it's an
least
equivalent, yeah, right?
maybe write a song for them.
Right, right, exactly. So you know what I'm saying? Like that's the point, right? Is that there's something about us that wants to reciprocate that feeling. And I think that is an impetus for so many of us who play music and at least original music. And even cover music, there's probably a certain level of that. Like they just want to get in on that feeling of the songs that they loved. So, and we all know cover music is bigger than ever because the music industry is no longer creating heritage artists, right? Legacy artists. And so
Right.
everyone's still connecting to this time when the best, brightest people were in music. And I don't think that music is attracting that level of person anymore to a large degree. I'm making a complete generality, general statement here. There's a million people that can send us links of like, no, this, you got to hear this. And they would be right. So I don't want to overgeneralize here, but I do think that there's something to what I'm saying. I have my niece just got fired from Capitol Records because they fire everybody nowadays, right? It's all corporate. But
Hmm.
she was working there in their marketing department for a couple years, which is a really long time these days to work in a major label. And uh, uh, she would tell me these stories about what's going on there. And I'm just like, oh my God, it's a freaking disaster what's happened. And so I don't think if that's where our music industry is, as far as the bigger companies, they just don't get it. They just don't get it.
Yeah,
And
they're
no, they don't.
like you say, on another planet.
They're on another planet. And so they've completely not kept up with the times. They've put all their eggs in these weird baskets. It's all about short term. Those companies would not be surviving right now if it wasn't for Spotify and all of their legacy artists that are bringing in all those, you know, for the one or two artists, the Beyoncés in the world that they've got, that's not going to hold it up. They need the
Yeah.
Eagles. They need all these old artists that are still streaming and still making money. And Spotify's like,
Well, and God knows they need indie artists. I mean,
100%, right? And
yeah.
now you're seeing that the big labels are starting to gobble up these indie companies. You're going to see more and
Hmm.
more of that now because they're realizing like, oh my God, we have to get. So but she tells me these like corporate nightmare stories and everything, and I'm just like, oh my God, I wouldn't even want to be signed there, even if they wanted to. And by the time they're even interested, you're probably already making a living anyway, so
God,
right? Because you have to be that you're all they're looking at is your social media numbers. So if your social media numbers are up to a certain level, you're already making money, right? You're getting offers to play, you're getting streaming money in, like to get to that level where they even want to play ball with you, so some people still do it. I'm sure there's some incentives there that are still worthwhile for some people, but you know,
there's me.
yeah. So I'm not, having been on the other side of that, signed to a major label when it was, you know, um, one of the heydays of it. I was still late. I was involved to me the last hurrah, like all the 60s, 70s when all that stuff was coming up. That's when things were really, the Mo Austins of the world were walking the planet and making stuff happen, right?
Right, right.
And right. So anyway, I was a little late on that program, but I was still in the door at a time when that kind of thing was still happening, and it's just not anymore.
Yeah, yeah. It's a totally different world today, and um, you are transforming your poetry into stripped down acoustic songs. What motivated that?
Well, I did, once I did that meditation thing and I wrote the first song, which was more of a rock song with the talking in the verse, it kind of just was like, huh. And those were, I had been struggling with those lyrics for so long, and they came out in like 15 minutes after I did that. So I was like, oh, so that got my attention. And then I did a series of artwork. Um, I did a series of artwork that I wrote poems to go with the artwork. And uh just as sort of a compliment to it, give it some, I wrote lyrics for so many years, so I kind of just wrote these poems that kind of some of the philosophy of it and some of the story around it, whatever. And then I got offered a show at a gallery here in Los Angeles to do that series of work. And I came up with the idea to write the poems on the walls, graffiti style. I think one of the photos I sent you is from that show. It has my words all over the walls. If it didn't, then I'll send it to you. But
I think you did.
I think I did. So anyway,
I didn't know what I was looking at, but
that's what that show was. So all those words on the walls were handwritten by me, kind of graffiti style with a pen around the artwork. And that was sort of the series that I did. And so what I decided to do is like, wouldn't that be cool? Well, originally I was going to make like a little book of the poems. And I was like, well, I'm a musician. Like, what if the audio version of that book, what if I vibed it up a little bit and put some, some music, some tones under it? I wasn't sure what it would be. And so this is what came out, is these sort of acoustic songs that take you on these journeys, and I put hooks in them and I sing through part of them, and they're like, are they mini musicals? Maybe, like, but not that style, but they're rock, they're country, they're folk, and they're I won't even say spoken word, because spoken word music to me tends to be very hard to listen to. It's very challenging listen a lot of times, and I don't think that the songs I'm creating are. I'm trying consciously to stay away from that. But that's how it's.
No, you're doing a good job with it.
So for that gallery show, there was a code, and you could put on headphones and you could walk around the room, and I would take you sonically through the show. And I want to do more of those because it really worked out well.
Yeah, that's crazy. Do you have that videoed?
I do have a video that sort of has one of the songs and kind of shows I can send you a link to that video. It's got
yeah, let's get it in the description. Absolutely.
Okay, it's one of the songs, and then you can kind of see what the gallery looked like. So anyway, yeah, I have that.
All right. Well, we're going to take our last break and come back and close things out. And this has been Rob Grad, bending our minds. Be right back.
I wanna run, I wanna hide, I wanna tear down the walls that hold me inside. I wanna reach out and touch the flame where the streets have no name. I wanna feel sunlight on my face, see that dust cloud disappear without a trace. I wanna take shelter from the poison rain where the streets have no name. Where the streets have no name, where the streets have no name, we're still building, then burning down love, burning down love. And when I go there with you. It's all I can do. The city's aflood.
This has been Further Conversations with Rob Grad. I'm Gary Dranow, your host. Rob, tell me a little bit about your life now, not outside of music and art.
Well, I'm married. I've been married about 10 years. I went on this like life-changing sojourn to Europe that really did about 15 in 2009. And one of the spiritual guru people I was seeing at the time, she suggested that I go traveling because I had never been to Europe. I always thought I'd go there on tour. It never happened. And so she's like, you just got to go and stuff. So it's a long story, but the short version of it is I finally went, I took the solo trip, and it really opened my eyes. It's when I got the idea to start making art. I was standing in front of a Robert Rauschenberg painting in Madrid, in a museum in Madrid. And I realized that these little CDs I was making to send to music supervisors, where I was printing on transparencies and then putting like sandpaper or fabric behind them so you could kind of see the patterns, and it kind of made this layered effect, was
That's
not too different.
cool.
not too different than what Robert Rauschenberg, and like Andy Warhol and stuff were doing with emulsion photography and silk screens. So I came home, I made a couple paintings, and I got a gallery show, and it completely changed my life. And around that time when I got home, I lived in Madrid for 3 months, and it was freaking awesome, and I wasn't going to come back. I was going to stay in Europe. I came home, I decided to go to Northern California for a little bit because I didn't really feel like being in LA. And I met this girl through the same guru, basically, that sent me to Europe, because she had just come back from 15 months by herself in Asia and all over Japan, and she went to Korea and Cambodia, all these places. Anyway, so we kind of connected around that, right? Like these sort of like coming to a new place, new chapter in our lives. And so we ended up connecting, and then she started coming up Northern California. She just stayed eventually. And, we got married about 10 years ago. We have a 5-year-old daughter now. It's a challenge sometimes, reality. I'm an artist through and through. This is what I do. This to me is life, and what I do, my music, my art. That's why I didn't get married or settle down until I was 45, right? Because it just wasn't something I was too concerned about. I was totally fine living and dying alone. Like Henry Miller, he's like a huge, I love Henry Miller. He moved to Big Sur. It's one of my favorite places in the world. And he wrote books and hung out by himself, in the mountains. And I was like, yeah, that could totally be me. Like I would have been fine with it. So I wasn't really a priority for me, but I did meet someone, and she was great and didn't feel threatened by it. Doesn't take things personally the way I'd experienced before, which was a revelatory to me. And we've found a way she's creative as well, so she gets it, so it hasn't really been a rub for us. I have to be conscious that there's someone else in my life, so I'm not an idiot. But having said that, as long as I show up for the relationship, it's been working, and optimistic.
My band, I've got really 2 bands. The bands that you hear the music on Spotify with,
yep.
And then my local band here in Park City. And we play Hendrix and blues, and I mean cover, and some originals, but originals from my 1995 period. The reason why I'm bringing this up is here I am playing covers. You need to play originals. And I had a point, because I was going to close the show with the point, but guess what just happened?
What happened?
I forgot what I was going to say.
All right, we both
Rob,
had that happen today.
It's been a really good time. I've enjoyed the heck out of your stories. I know my guests are going to love you, and certainly you have to come back. And with that, we're going to close the show. So,
Gary, thanks for having me, man. Really digging your show. So glad to be on. Happy to come back anytime. You just let me know. It's all good.
You got it. We'll stay in touch.
Okay, sounds great.
Bye-bye.
Bye.